Big tech CEOs are testifying at the online child safety hearing.
Now, I know you're familiar with these stats because he sent you an email where he lined it all out. I mean, we've got a copy of it. My question is, who did you fire for this? Who got fired because of that?
Senator, we study all of this because it's important and we want to improve our services.
Well, you just told me a second ago you studied it, that there was no linkage. Who did you fire?
I said you mischaracterized.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
Senator, this is why we're building all.
Who did you fire?
Tools. Senator, I don't think that's.
Who did you fire?
I'm not going to answer that.
Because you didn't fire anybody.
It's so funny that he's saying that because, like, they definitely fired mother. I'm sure. Come on, bro. They did like a massive layoff for Meta even. Like, it's so easy for him to say, like, yeah, we fired a ton of people. Who cares? Like, yeah, they fired the janitor probably. And then you can just like chalk that up as a W. But it is a ridiculous line of questioning because, like, yeah, there's massive layoffs happening everywhere in the tech sector. I'm not defending Mark Zuckerberg here, but I mean, I'm certainly not defending Josh Hawley either.
We have to talk about like
it's not appropriate
HR decisions.
Do you know who's sitting behind you? You've got families from across the nation whose children are either severely harmed or gone. And you don't think it's appropriate to talk about steps that you took? The fact that you didn't fire a single person? Let me ask you this. Have you compensated any of the victims?
Sorry?
Have you compensated any of the victims? These girls, have you compensated them?
Don't believe so.
Why not? Don't you think they deserve some compensation for what your platform has done? Help
Senator,
with counseling services, help with dealing with the issues that your services caused?
Our job is to make sure that we build tools to help keep people safe.
Are you going to compensate them?
God, I hate how bad faith this line of questioning is, but he's kind of cooking them. God, I hate it. I hate it. It's like, it's a mid-off. I despise Mark Zuckerberg for a million different reasons. I think Meta is awful. I think the algorithms are genuinely damaging. And then Josh Hawley is a demon as well, but now he's doing the Piers Morgan technique. Having a guy that everybody hates and cooking him so you look good in comparison. So people forget that you're Piers Morgan, right? That's what he's doing.
And what we take seriously is making sure that we build industry-leading tools to find harmful content,
make money,
take it off the services,
to make money,
and to build tools that empower parents.
So you didn't take.
By the way, yeah, you are completely correct. The people that are saying like, where's this energy for the gun manufacturers? Great question. Imagine a world in which they do this to like every company, which by the way, it's valid to do this to social media too.
Take any action. You didn't take any action. You didn't fire anybody. You haven't compensated a single victim. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well,
they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize?
Oh God, Josh Hawley bullied a billionaire. Oh God, this is so good for him. I hate it. I hate that it's so good for him because he's such a piece of so unserious and does not care even remotely about the safety and security of these families.
Done to these good people.
Things that your families have suffered, and this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
Why, Mr. Zuckerberg, why should your company not?
This feels like big government to me. I'm chilling with our government meddling in the business of these major corporations, but where's the consistency, the cognitive dissonance? The government always meddles in the business. It only meddles in business affairs in the direction of capital owners, and this won't be any different than that, okay? The government is constantly meddling in big business. Big government is always hand in hand. It's just that when they meddle in big business, they do it at the behest of the owners of the corporations. They very rarely also do it for the consumers. If there is a genuine issue, then that they balance that. Like, consumers come second. Capital owners number one, consumers second, last place is labor, obviously.
Why is it that you can claim, you hide behind a liability shield, you can't be held accountable? Shouldn't you be held accountable personally? Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I think I've already answered this. I mean, these
well, try this again. Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I view my job and the job of our company as building the best tools that we can to keep our community safe.
Well, you're failing at that.
Well, Senator, we're doing an industry-leading effort. We build AI tools
nonsense. Your product is killing people. Will you personally commit to compensating the victims? You're a billionaire. Will you commit to compensating the victims? Will you set up a compensation fund
Senator,
with your money?
I think these are
with your money.
Senator, these are complicated
issues. No, that's not a complicated question, though. That's Senator, a yes or no. Will you set up a victims compensation?
God, that's such a good God, I hate this. I hate this so much. I hate it because that's such a good bar. That is a great line of questioning. He is holding his foot to the fire. He's holding him accountable. He's doing it in a very aesthetically pleasing manner, if that makes sense. You hate to see it, I guess. You hate to freaking see it because it's being done by the worst piece out there. They don't have this kind of smoke for the gun lobby, the gun manufacturers. They don't have this kind of smoke for DuPont Chemical. You know what I mean? They don't have this kind of smoke for pharmaceutical corporations. Not to say that this is a bad line of questioning. I think this is good. The issue is this line of questioning is just, why did you beat your wife over and over again? But that's good. That reads well to the average human. I'm telling you, this is like what they should be doing to every company. They do not demand any kind of real restitution, or they can get like any kind of real restitution from any of these other companies. This kind of attack is still good. Populism 101, certainly, but this is what I demand from my Democratic congresspersons too.
Before my time expires, Mr. Chu, let me just ask you, your platform, why should your platform not be banned in the United States of America? You are owned by a Chinese communist company, or a company based in China. The editor-in-chief of your parent company is a Communist Party secretary. Your company has been surveilling Americans for years. According to leaked audio from more than 80 internal TikTok meetings, China-based employees of your company have repeatedly accessed non-public data of United States citizens.
This part of the conversation is literally like, you are currently yelling at a dude from Singapore for engaging in the exact same practices that every other corporation engages in. The only difference is it's China that owns the company. Like, this is just a straight up bad because China moment. TikTok is bad, okay? TikTok is bad. It breaks people's brains for sure. The hilarious part of this is that it's like the surveillance strategies that they're talking about and all this stuff is like commonplace, is common practice. I think that in this circumstance, like, regulation is a must, but I don't know what the best way to do it is. I don't know what the best strategy going forward should be. It is funny thinking about like how much smoke they have for this when they could, like, the Chinese government could just like buy this information. Okay.
And we know that all of that information can be accessed by Chinese employees who are subject to the dictates of the Chinese Communist Party. Why should you not be banned in this country?
Senator, that is not accurate. A lot of what you describe we collect, we don't.
It is 100% accurate. Do you deny that repeatedly Americans' data has been accessed by BiteDance employees in China?
We built a project that cost us billions of dollars to stop that, and we have made a lot of progress.
And it hasn't been stopped, according to the Wall Street Journal report from just yesterday.
So you're okay with China trying to suppress our journalists? Wait, what? I never said that. What are you talking about? No, dude, I know everybody always goes like, dude, you love China. You love China. Like, I don't think TikTok is good. I'm quite literally mentioning that TikTok's impact on the Western world is damaging. And not only that, but I'm saying internally in China, they have a TikTok equivalent and it has a ton of safeguards in it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Better criticisms of and better regulations surrounding what we must do with TikTok and all other social media, including the surveillance stuff too, for sure. It's just laughable to think about like TikTok doing extra surveillance more than anyone else, and it's like going to Chinese people and it's actually suppressing journalists or whatever. Like, China is like controlling American journalists or suppressing their information is pretty funny because that is no longer even the tip of the iceberg. You're now talking about some insane, okay?
Even now, BiteDance workers, without going through official channels, have access to the private information of American citizens. I'm quoting from the article, private information of American citizens, including their birth date, their IP address, and more. That's now.
Senator, as we know, the media doesn't always get it right. What we have.
What the Chinese Communist Party does?
Okay, show. Show did the damn thing. That's actually a good line because it's like, it's one that works really well for the Republican audience. You know what I mean? To which his response again is like, well, what about the Chatcom?
What I'm saying is that we've spent billions of dollars to build this project. It's rigorous, it's robust, it's unprecedented, and I'm proud of the work that the 2,000 employees are doing to protect the data.
It's not protected. That's the problem, Mr. Chu. It's not protected at all. It's subject to Communist Chinese Party inspection and review.
My eyes are rolling out of my head.
Heaven knows I've got
My
problems
eyeballs
with
are
everybody
rolled
here.
behind. I think the major thing with TikTok is that it's owned by China. And because it's owned by China, they just hate that. They don't have like the same level of control and the same level of backdoor access to the same degree that they do to like every other American social media platform that our intelligence agencies are monitoring and utilizing at any given moment. Being owned by BiteDance also gives TikTok like additional bandwidth as far as like not being as malleable or as susceptible to like public pressure, let's say in the same way that like Meta could be. First of all, the moderation on TikTok is, I think, a bunch of monkeys and levers. Okay. I'm almost certain like there is not a human that controls any part of that process. We've talked about this quite a bit. It's really awful. I get banned every week. It's like insane. I get unbanned. I ask for like a human to look at it. I get unbanned and then I get banned again for the same video. It's completely random. It makes no goddamn sense. It's really, really, really stupid. Are you comfortable with Facebook and Google doing the same thing? No. That's what I'm trying to point to. My argument is, no, this regulation is not just for TikTok. It should be across the board. There is no regulation, and the TikTok part of the conversation is simply to try and bully TikTok so they can sell it to an American company and continue the same process. That's my point. I'm not saying it's good that TikTok is surveilling people. I have had a very consistent point on this. Here's how this works. These guys love hammering TikTok because they say, ooh, scary, China is doing the surveilling. Ooh, scary. If they were to come out with regulation that would impact all of the companies in the same exact way, that would be wonderful. But that's not the goal here. The goal isn't even to regulate TikTok. The goal is to sell off TikTok to an American company so that, you know, they can have an additional level of control and maybe even pressure. Look, this is my theory. This is what I think they want. They don't like that there is like a company out there that's not as malleable and not as susceptible to like even pressures from the State Department. I feel like there is an allowance that TikTok has as far as like even what kind of information is like readily accessible on there. You certainly have way more rigorous checks and controls over when you compare it to, and I'm talking of course about Palestine, when you compare it to like Meta, right? Meta is like very openly suppressing pro-Palestinian content. Any mentions of Palestine whatsoever, you get clapped. And they're very unapologetic about it. Ironic considering that basically were partially responsible, according to investigations, in the last time Muslims were being genocided en masse. And I'm, of course, referring to the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. So they're obviously very one-sided when it comes to like Muslims being killed en masse. It's just interesting to think about. And I think that is a couple of the reasons why I think they want to manage it.
Foreign hostile government that has actively trying to track the information of whereabouts of every American.
Foreign hostile government, brother. Foreign hostile gooberment.
Your app ought to be banned in the United States of America for the security of this country.
Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Woo! My boy's about to get real racist with it. Hold on now, partner. Before we move on back to goddamn Tom Cotton, okay? Let me tell you a thing or two. So we're going to talk about Tom Cotton being insanely racist. Tom Cotton hit the "what kind of Asian are you?" Wrong answer. It's Chinese. He literally did that. So insane that this person is like in Congress, okay? I don't care what kind of Asian you are. You're literally Chinese. Are you Chinese or Japanese? He said, nope, you're Chinese. You're Chinese to me, brother. You. It's more like, what kind of Chinese are you? 4 types of people, okay? Chinese, Mexican, Black, American. And when I say American, I'm talking about white people. There ain't nothing else, and you don't look Mexican to me, so you must be Chinese. Arabs are Mexican. We categorize Arabs under the banner of Mexican and sometimes white, which is very scary stuff. Some of them Arabs can hide as white people. Anyway, here, let's look at the difference between TikTok and Douyin before we move on back to him being like, I don't care that you're from Singapore. What kind of Chinese are you?
Here are the key differences between our version of TikTok here in the US that we all know and the Chinese version called Douyin that you can only access in China. So if you're a child in China who wants to go on Douyin or TikTok, you can only go on the app for 40 minutes a day maximum. And that's not a setting that you can change, it's forced. And they'll only be shown videos about knowledge or science, math, patriotism. Any piece of content that is made in any other country cannot be shown on Douyin. So with all this different content comes different trending artists and trending songs. And it's really hard for an artist to blow up on TikTok and simultaneously Douyin. But this singer right here, Ari Abdul, may be the first artist to have a #1 song on Douyin and then TikTok. Her song, Baby Doll, that was the first song she ever wrote, has over 2 million plays on Douyin. And it's been the #1 song. The sound is being used for romantic videos, transitions, fan edits. So it'll be very interesting to see just how much Baby Doll can take off on worldwide TikTok after it's a major...
We have a unique circumstance here. Is she Chinese or Mexican? I'm confused. I don't know how to be racist towards her. She's on the Chinese app, but she got a last name Abdul, which, as I said earlier, is Arab, which I said earlier, it means she's Mexican. I don't get it. Abdul, them Chinese are bringing in Hamas over the border with their music like Abdul.
I think they then had a lawsuit and it was overturned. I can't remember the details. It's another
it was
company.
the Biden administration that reversed those sanctions, just like, by the way, they reversed the terrorist designation on the Houthis in Yemen. How's that working out for them? But it was sanctioned as a Chinese communist military company. So you said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
He's like, what do you mean? You look Chinese to me. What the do you mean you're, what is Singapore? What the hell kind of Chinese is that? You look Chinese, you sound Chinese, your name Chinese. Is Singapore in China? What part of China is Singapore? Why are you hiding the truth about Singapore? He's literally like, I don't believe you. You're Chinese. What the It's so stupid. It's so dumb. What are you doing?
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Well, let me tell you, you won't be getting it because you're Chinese.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
Why would he? How? What are you saying? It's a brick wall, dude. Nothing. He's not registering anything.
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
Let me ask you some hopefully simple questions. You said earlier, in response to a question, that what happened at Tiananmen Square in June of 1989 was a massive protest. Anything else happen in Tiananmen Square?
He's so Reddit. He's like, yeah, I got you. This is how we found out you're Chinese right here. Oh, dude, this is so sick.
Yes, I think it's well documented. There was a massacre.
There was the indiscriminate slaughter of hundreds or thousands of Chinese citizens. Do you agree with the...
How many? How many did you kill at the Tiananmen Square? How many Chinese people did you kill personally? You were on that tank, weren't you? Tell me now. You marched that tank. It's well documented. You personally did it.
The Trump administration and the Biden administration that the Chinese government is committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, I've said this before. I think it's really important that anyone who cares about this topic or any topic can freely express themselves on TikTok.
It's a very simple question that unites both parties in our country. And
alarm bells in everybody's heads, by the way, should be ringing at this point, okay? It should ring alarm bells in your head when like someone like Tom Cotton's talking about like genocide, currently ongoing genocide against like a Muslim population, and he's not talking about Palestine. It's just a talking point. That's it, okay? It's just a talking point.
Well-educated man who's expressed many opinions on many topics. Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Actually, Senator, I talk mainly about my company, and I'm here to talk about what TikTok does.
Yes or no? You're here to give testimony that's truthful and honest and complete. Let me ask you this. Joe Biden last year said that Xi Jinping was a dictator. Do you agree with Joe Biden? Is Xi Jinping a dictator?
Senator, I'm not going to comment on any world leaders.
What?
He's obviously a communist because he's from Singapore and not Sing-a-rich. True, brother. It's one of my favorite types of racism. Oh, it's time to answer for the crimes of like what I associate China with. You look Chinese enough. Come on, go ahead. You know what I mean? It's just like pure unadulterated racism. You are there specifically as the CEO of TikTok. Like if you were talking to Mark Zuckerberg about like made up that you came up with like Jewish crimes or something because, well, you're Jewish. Tell me about Jewish crimes. Did you build the Chabad tunnels in Brooklyn? Tell me now. It's just so dumb. It's so insanely stupid. It's like, yeah, tell me about them Jewish space lasers, Mark Zuckerberg. What are you talking about? Now, I know people will jump on this and turn around and say things along the lines of like, well, technically, this is about like Chinese surveillance. No, it's not. It's about children and protecting children. And secondly, in that line of questioning, you could give all the smoke. You could be like, why is the Chinese equivalent Douyin significantly more regulated as far as what it shows children? That's a question that actually is relevant. Like, that makes sense. It is directly involved with the actual mechanisms of control with an equivalent product in China. Like, it makes no sense. It's all an optics conversation, and even the optics on that front for Tom Cotton are not exactly good because it's just him being racist. Like, he's not even doing a decent enough job with the optics side. Josh Hawley, on the other hand, did a decent enough job with the optics side, and then he went on to Fox News to, you know, talk about his big dub over the Chinese man that he destroyed.
Heads of all of these technology companies, including Mark Zuckerberg, some very powerful moments from all of this. This is an exchange that you had with the CEO of TikTok. What were you getting at there? It's getting a lot of...
It's like when people come up to me and they're like, you must love Saddam Hussein. It's like, what? Wait, no. You love Saddam Hussein. Your name is Hassan, which is 1 degree removed from Hussein to begin with. Okay, tell me now, how long did you serve the Ba'athist Party? Why did you not talk about your affiliation with the Ba'athist Party?
Singapore is obviously self-governed, has been since 1959. Do you have some kind of information on this TikTok
Oh my God, even the Fox News anchor is like, what are you doing?
CEO that we should be aware of?
Well, first off, he acknowledged that TikTok is under the control of the company that has its own internal Chinese Communist Party committee. He himself worked for a company before he went to TikTok and BiteDance that was sanctioned by the United States government as a Chinese communist-controlled military company. TikTok and its parent BiteDance answers to China. And of course, you can be affiliated with or associated with the Chinese Communist Party anywhere in the world. The Biden administration has many cases against...
At this point, like, most of the video game industry is also in the exact same vein owned by the Chinese, okay? Not to like give these guys any additional ideas, but like Tencent has a ton of ownership over a lot of the video game developers, publishers that we enjoy the product of. I mean, obviously a lot of those guys are white, like the guys on the American side are white, so it doesn't have that same smoke. Talking to a dude from Iowa or whatever and being like, what kind of Chinese are you, boy? Is not going to work when the dude that you're talking to is like literally white. But the only reason why it hits here is because he's Asian. He's from Singapore, and Americans are stupid as and incredibly racist, so they go, oh, he's really cooking him here, okay? What are you talking about?
Singapore, unfortunately, is one of the places in the world that has the highest degree of infiltration and influence by the Chinese Communist Party. So Mr. Chu has a lot to answer for what his app is doing in America and why it's doing it.
So you feel that you were justified in the line of questioning, and I'll just ask you again.
This is so funny. It's always the same post hoc rationalization for why he was being racist, okay? It's because he looks Chinese. He's working for a Chinese app, which is why it's perfectly in line with this line of questioning. It's like, what are you saying? You shouldn't even do this if he was Chinese, for the record. Like, what are we talking about? The idea that every single Chinese American, okay, or even like a regular old Chinese guy who's not even an American citizen yet, but has an American wife and American children, secretly an agent of China, is an insane approach. You cannot do that. That is an insane thing to do. Last time we did this, we put Japanese people in concentration camps in this country. What the are you doing? It feels like I'm losing my mind because like everyone is so anti-China that this is like perfectly valid, right? At least to a varying degree. People will rush to make these judgments and we'll go, you know, I don't really like Tom Cotton, but like he's kind of spitting here. Like liberals do similar things like this. It's crazy.
Again, do you have any evidence that he's a member of the CCP?
No, Martha, what I have is his record of working at companies that have been sanctioned because they are associated with and directed by the Chinese Communist Party, or working at a company that has internal Chinese Communist Party committees. It's entirely reasonable.
What are you saying? This applies to every company that is at least partially or fully owned by a Chinese company, and there are so many of them. We have perfectly normal trade relations with China. It's so weird, dude. It is so strange to me. On the one hand, I don't know how to describe it. Like, this is a part of our regular order of business, okay? China is a massive, massive manufacturing hub. They also are obviously now in the game of purchasing American companies and vice versa. Well, most of the time it's just American companies that they're purchasing. Americans are not purchasing Chinese companies. The notion that it is so unique and so scary that like these scary Chinese people are coming to infiltrate America is just built around pure racism and xenophobia. It's just like if we disrupted our trade relation with China beyond like what Trump tried to do with tariffs and whatnot, if we legitimately divested from China, it would destroy global trade. We would have like Argentina times 10 inflation. It's so stupid. The xenophobia is one thing, but it's based on top of like a normal trade relation that already exists. It's like trying to be xenophobic when there's a ton of Chinese Americans and of Americans that also go to China and work there. You know what I mean? There's like so much cross-pollination, and yet you have like both the liberal politicians, the conservative politicians in the Republican Party operating like this is not the reality. Like China is somehow still like North Korea or something. That it's like this, hermit kingdom, super afar, out of touch. We can't talk about them or we don't look into it. It is so stupid.
You're familiar with China's 2017 National Intelligence Law, which states, quote, all organizations and citizens shall support, assist, and cooperate with national intelligence efforts in accordance with the law and shall protect national intelligence work secrets they are aware of.
Yes, I'm familiar with this.
TikTok is owned by BiteDance. Is BiteDance subject to the law?
Honestly, this kind of is so wild because like I get hit with this and I'm not Asian, you know what I mean? I'm the type of Asian that's white and not the type of Asian that you think of when you think of Asian people. Even then it's like, yeah, I'm West Asian, I'm Caucasian, right? It has nothing to do with like me looking Asian in the way that you understand it. I'm not talking about like Pakistani people or Afghan people. I'm talking like straight up in America. When you say Asian, you're thinking of East Asian, okay? Even then people are like, I bet you have no answer for the Tiananmen Square massacre, silly libtard. Yeah, got you. People literally will say this even if they cast you as like remotely pro-China because you are, I don't know, cutting through some of the noise when it comes to all of the insanity surrounding China. When I talk about even development in China or Chinese prosperity initiatives or whatever, they're like, oh, dude, you're dick riding CCP. You're dick riding CCP. You love everything China does. You're China simp. You're a China simp. You're 100% a China simp. And it's like, no, I'm just being objective and reasonable in my analysis. And it's ridiculous.
For the Chinese businesses that ByteDance owns, yes, it will be subject to this, but TikTok is not available in mainland China. And Senator, as we talked about in your office, we built Project Texas to put this out of reach.
So ByteDance is subject to the law. Now, under this law, which says shall protect national intelligence work secrets they are aware of, it compels people subject to the law to lie to protect those secrets. Is that correct?
I cannot comment on that. What I said again is that we have
because
moved
you
it
have
out
to
of reach
protect those
this.
secrets.
No, Senator, TikTok is not available in mainland China. We have moved the data into an American cloud
TikTok
infrastructure.
is controlled by ByteDance, which is subject to this law.
By the way, this is FISA Corp. Like, this is the same principle, I think, behind like the NSA having backdoor access, which for the record is not good. It's just like unimaginable for this to be anything but in China. The major difference, however, is that we do it in America and we say, these are the people who think that that's good when America does it. I think it's bad across the board. I can't speak for Chinese nationals beyond saying that I don't think it's a good thing to have this level of surveillance inflicted upon a population, because that is my analysis in the Western world.
For any data by the Chinese government, and we have never provided it. I'm going to tell you, and I told this when you and I met last week in my office, I do not believe you. And I'll tell you, the American people don't either. If you look at what is on TikTok in China, you are promoting to kids science and math videos, educational videos, and you limit the amount of time kids can be on TikTok. In the United States, you are promoting to kids self-harm videos.
He's doing it. He's stealing my takes. I hate it. Oh, God, I hate that it's Ted Cruz saying it.
And
And anti-Israel.
There was a report recently that compared hashtags on Instagram to hashtags on TikTok, and what trended. And the differences were striking. For something like hashtag Taylor Swift or hashtag Trump, researchers found roughly 2 Instagram posts for every one on TikTok. That's not a dramatic difference. That difference jumps to 8-to-1 for the hashtag Uyghur, and it jumps to 30-to-1 for the hashtag Tibet, and it jumps to 57-to-1 to the hashtag Tiananmen Square, and it jumps to 100.
I wonder why. Is it because of Chinese suppression, or is it because like one is infinitely more relevant right now? I don't understand it. Like, who the is hashtagging Tiananmen Square? Yeah, there's not enough Redditors out there. You know what I mean? Why are they not tic-tacking about the Tiananmen Square massacre? Are these children talking about Taylor Swift? Is Taylor Swift a Chinese agent? Answer me now.
74-1 for the hashtag Hong Kong protest. Why is it that on Instagram, people can put up a hashtag Hong Kong protest 174 times compared to TikTok? What censorship is TikTok doing at the request of the Chinese government?
None. Senator,
This is so stupid, dude. TikTok is a much younger demographic. They probably don't give a about Hong Kong protests, okay? They probably don't give a about Tiananmen Square, definitely. Okay, Instagram is much older. That's literally it.
Explain that differential.
The analysis is flawed. It's been debunked by other external sources like the Cato Institute. Fundamentally, a few things happen here. Not all videos carry hashtags. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you cannot selectively choose a few words within a certain time
Why the
period.
difference between Taylor Swift and Tiananmen Square? What happened in Tiananmen Square?
Senator, there was a massive protest during that time. But what I'm trying to say is our users can freely come and post this
Why
content.
would there be no difference on Taylor Swift or a minimal difference and a massive difference on Tiananmen Square or Hong Kong?
Senator, our algorithm does not suppress any content simply based on
To
this.
answer
It
that
doesn't.
question, why
Yeah.
is there a difference?
Like I said, I think this analysis is flawed.
It's because, one, you're looking at hashtags, which is not a great way to analyze like what kind of content is popping off. And everybody gives a shit about Taylor Swift. Old people care about Taylor Swift. Young people care about Taylor Swift. But young people don't give a about Tiananmen Square. You're comparing it to Meta. Facebook's entire user base is like 65 plus. Those are the who were alive when it happened. I think another part of this is like really funny. Like they'll be like, whoa, you're suppressing Tiananmen Square massacre footage, right? Like they'll say something like that. And then simultaneously turn around and be like, you all posted the George Floyd riots and said that they were good, and you made the black folk riot with your social media. You need to suppress this kind of messaging. You need to take off CRT nonsense. It's just like, what is it, dude? Are you jealous that the Chinese government has a stranglehold on information and restricting access to information? Because it feels like you're upset that you can't do it.
Mr. Zuckerberg, in June of 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that Instagram's recommendation systems actively connecting pedophiles to accounts that were advertising the sale of child sexual abuse material. In many cases, those accounts appeared to be run by underage children themselves, often using code words and emojis to advertise illicit material. In other cases, the accounts included indicia that the victim was being sex trafficked. Now, I know that Instagram has a team that works to prevent the abuse and exploitation of children online. But what was particularly concerning about the Wall Street Journal expose was the degree to which Instagram's own algorithm was promoting the discoverability of victims for pedophiles seeking child abuse material. In other words, this material wasn't just living on the dark corners of Instagram. Instagram was helping pedophiles find it by promoting graphic hashtags, including hashtag pedwhore and hashtag preteen sex.
Oh, Christ, dude. It's gross. Bro, give a trigger warning for Ted Cruz. Yeah, ugh, God.